Peace to the family. Today, I want to reflect on the gathering on 6/28, Stone Mountain, Georgia. That was organized by Radiohead Rich from Black Magick 363. First of all, I want to thank this brother and his crew for holding up the mountain, basically holding up the mountain. Right, I want to deal with this in a systematic way, deal a little bit about the history and the formation of the mountain. But first and foremost, that morning I arose and I was listening to none other than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It was he was on his way to Oslo, Finland, to receive the Nobel Peace Prize, but he had stopped in London, England, and he was giving a speech, and he was talking a lot about Palestine and South Africa, as well as Vietnam in his speech. But one of the most used quotes by Dr. King is "Let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia." And on 6/28, freedom surely rang from Stone Mountain, Georgia, from the likes of Sharif Anio Bey, Red Pillar, Blue Pillar, Top Cat, Chief Top Cat, Bedell, 1014. There were several sisters, and it was ringing magnamoniously through Sister Vicky Dillard, who electrified the crowd with her wise words, right? But let's deal with the history of Stone Mountain, Georgia. Stone Mountain, Georgia, it is said that it formed when the plates collide over 800 million years ago, the tectonic plates, when North America collided with what would be present-day Northwest Africa, right? Side note, in the Ivory Coast, or Cote d'Ivoire, there are two identical granite mountains, not quite the same size as Stone Mountain, but they're very large mountains in Bundi Ali, Cote d'Ivoire. Huge mountains, lovely mountains. What they say is one of the mountains is for the Muslims and one of the mountains is for the traditional religions. I had the opportunity to go to Bundi Ali, and I climbed both of those mountains, and it gave me a sense of freedom. And I said, immediately I drew the connection between Stone Mountain, Georgia, and Bundi Ali. I am a native of Atlanta, and I've known Stone Mountain all of my life, right? So, okay. You also have the story that the igneous rock developed from the cooling of the magma around 300 to 350 million years ago during the formation of the Blue Ridge Mountain chain. The Blue Ridge Mountain chain, basically we talking Tennessee, North Carolina, essentially, right? So the difference between 800 million years and 350 million years. So we see that there are two theories about it. All right. So what we have is a mountain that is known as the largest exposed granite on the planet, right? Piece of granite on the planet. They say this is a rumor that was started by quarry masters here in the Georgia area, right? Because granite is very prominent, and there's a lot of it, right? If you go back and you look up the Georgia Guidestones in Elberton, Georgia, they're made of granite as well. And not so long ago, the Georgia Guidestones were blew up for some reason. I don't know, but that's an interesting history right there. Okay, but the rock, as we've known it here in Georgia, Stone Mountain, also redubbed the Crystal Mountain. The original name is the Crystal Mountain because it's composed of, let's see, quartz, microvite mica, biotite mica, microline, and tourmaline. Crystal masters will know about tourmaline, right? And this granite rock also, during the last stages of, in the theory that says from 300 to 350 years ago, they say that during the Allegheny orogeny, when North America and North Africa collided, right? So they know what's up when we start talking about what people would know as Pangea, or just the shifting of the Earth's tectonic plates. That was a real phenomenon, right? So yes, we know and understand that this quartz and this granite, it creates a EMF field, right? When we're talking about electromagnetical frequencies, we know that it gives off energy. Thusly, that's why you have the radio transmitters that are high atop Stone Mountain, right? And the radio stations that push from the top of Stone Mountain, they have a reach of all of the southeast region. It's even rumored that some of those stations, they can push all the way to the Mississippi River, right? Okay, I want to introduce you to a concept, the sacred indigenous stones of Stone Mountain. This is the quote unquote, if you look at Stone Mountain's videos about itself, it's the dark history of Stone Mountain. I'm going to get to what they call the dark history. They would say that the dark history is the Triple K's, or the Ku Klux Klan, right? So the dark history is that it was originally inhabited by indigenous people. We talking about the Mississippian Indians, the Cherokee Indians, the Muskogee Indians, and the Creek, so-called Creek Indians. I know some of these, I'm using the European terms, so I know some of them are considered pejorative to native indigenous people, but for the sake of clarity, I'll use those terms: Muskogee, Cherokee, Lumbee. Even the Lumbee Indians came down this far. So-called Indians, I say, but for the sake of clarity, forgive me for using some of these Eurocentric terms, right? And it was a place of initiation and a place of trade because it was such a gigantic landmark that the people knew how to get to it, right? Because of its sheer size and probably because of the energy coming off of it, right? You know how indigenous people are tapped into to the frequency of the earth. I just say it like that. But anyways, there's a good video about this history by a sister named Kimberly Purpose. That's Kimberly Purpoz, Purpoz, the sacred indigenous stones of Stone Mountain, Georgia. So you can check that out and get verification for yourself of it, right? But anyways, that freedom that rang from Stone Mountain on 628 was all because of a ritual. So as I was on the mountain, I thought about, why do we create rituals? We create rituals, what, for psychological, social, and cultural reasons, right? Marking important moments, birthing, marriages, graduations, marriages, and other universal rites of passage, right? These rituals, they add what? Meaning and continuity to communities. What? These rituals can transform everyday actions into something more profound, and bring in a sense of mindfulness. So anybody that heard the speech of Billy Carson, he was speaking about mental health, right? And the mental health of our people. So that was definitely connected to ritual. The ritual of a lot of people going up that mountain and down that mountain. One of the sisters, in her attunement, she admonished us and let us know with great force and great wisdom that we should reflect on our ancestors, reflect on the positive, release the negative, and go back down the mountain as a changed individual or a changed person, or as one who would change the greater collective. I mean, I'm so thankful for being on that mountain that day. I'm trying to keep it in a systematic way, but the emotion definitely is in me, and it's going to come through. And I'm going to make another video where I deal more with my emotional reflection of that day on that mountain, right? We also have rituals for what? To reinforce our belief systems, whether religious, cultural, or personal. It helps individuals and groups connect with what they deem as meaningful, right? Emotional regulation and coping provides a safe space for emotional expression, helps to deal with adversity, right? Again, with all of the speakers, from Chief Top Cat to Chief Top Cats, again to Sister Vicky Dillard, and Brother Billy Carson, and Brother Blue Pill and Brother Red Pill as well. Their expressions was to help us deal with adversity, right? And release those negative, toxic beliefs that we are inundated with by local media, by the global system of white supremacy, racism, white supremacy, as Dr. Neely Fuller would espouse it in his seminal work, The Code, right? Which is a textbook, thought, workbook for victims of white supremacy through word, thought, and action, right? A good text to familiarize yourself with is The Code, right? These rituals also foster social cohesion and connection, foster belonging, transmitting culture, right? I'm going to share something personal. On my growth of my channel, I had no intention of recording the events on 6/28, but I just found myself at the center point of the mountain, what we found to be the geometric center of that mountain. And immediately something told me deep within to record this moment. I was right there in the front, so I recorded this moment. I posted the videos to YouTube. I saw my subscriptions go from 90 persons to thousands off of one event, and for that I am so immensely thankful for those that clicked and subscribed to my station. I'll be indebted to you, and I'll try to do my best to provide you with accurate and relevant information in a positive way. All right. And one thing, as a Georgia man, I understand about those three Confederates. What is it? Stonewall Jackson, Jefferson Davis. What's the other gray up there? What's up there? Jefferson Davis, Stonewall Jackson. What's that other cat that's up there? Anyhow, it'll come to me. But anyways, the reason that they blasted those losers up there, let me get it. Robert E. Lee, Jefferson Davis, and Stonewall Jackson. These two Babos, they romanticized the antebellum, the slavery days, the Civil War. They romanticize it to such a degree that they believe that they should make a monument in regards to their way of life. And this was basically spearheaded by the Daughters of the Confederacy, right? So the Daughters of the Confederacy, upon hearing of Abraham Lincoln's memorial in Washington, D.C., began to raise money to build a monument to those grays, right? I call them grays, aliens, because they was definitely not like the rest of the people. They wanted to make a living off of keeping people in human bondage and perpetual servitude to another race. So I don't even want to say that they're human beings. I just call them grays. That's was the color of the uniforms that those aliens wore, right? So I say, for the most part, I never think about that. You know, I see, when we was coming up, we was also told that before the Venable family, who supposedly owned Stone Mountain, there was a black man that owned Stone Mountain. That's another part of the dark history of Stone Mountain that they'll never tell you about, is that it was a black man that actually owned Stone Mountain, right? And if you go to the west of Stone Mountain, in what is now Gwinnett County, you also have a slab of granite, which is Panola Mountain State Park and Arabia Mountain State Park. But also in that area was a African American community by the name of Providence, right? That extends along the line of Stone Mountain, right, in the South River. Okay, but back to these Daughters of Confederacy. and how they had a project that was known as, ironically, the Dream. You know, their project was known as the Dream, right? So in 1914, the Daughters of the Confederacy wanted a war memorial for Robert E. Lee on the scale of Abraham Lincoln's monument in Washington, D.C., right? So in 1923, after the Daughters of the Confederacy had went on a nationwide fundraiser to begin the construction, they found a sculpture known as Gurtstenborglum. That's Gurtstoborglum. That sounds like some sort of German name. All right, but this guy, he also carved Mount Rushmore, another mountain that they defaced on a grand scale as a sign to all people of white male hegemony and the promotion of white supremacy, right? So they raised this money up to 1923. But Borglum talked about the corruption within the system of the Daughters of the American Confederacy, and how they were stealing a lot of money. How they were stealing a lot of money. So they fired Gustav Bergham. But before they could fire him, he blew up the face of Robert E. Lee that he had already started on. So they had to start working on it from 100 feet below. Right? The work continued 100 feet below where they had started. Right? So construction ended because of the Great Depression. They didn't have no money to get it done. Right? So that's their dark history. But then in the 1960s, the state of Georgia possessed the land and began work on it. 1970, the monument was completed. President, what's the guy's name? Nixon. What's that boy name? Richard Milhouse Nixon, that's his name. Okay. He was from California, so he didn't show up for the grand opening of the monument, right? So being that Georgia owned it, they had a rekindling of white supremacy and the rebirth of the Ku Klux Klan. Most of us are familiar with the Klan being rebirthed at Stone Mountain, Georgia. But also in 1913, they went up there and they kicked it off with an initiation on the top of Stone Mountain. But they redid this again in the 60s and the 70s. Well, it was 1915 that they were on Stone Mountain. And then 1946, they reorganized on Stone Mountain, right? And that was on the heels of a Confederate uprising, a Confederate a resurgence in the love of the Confederacy because of the Civil Rights Movement, right? So two things you can see in common. During slavery and during times where African American people were coming back into their legal selves, these white folks, they go up on top of that mountain, right? So that's a little historical background that's a historical background to those 3 white graves that are on the side of the mountain, and the destruction of a natural wonder, and the white man has to put his stamp on it. That speaks to his nature, right? And even to this day, when we went up there 628, this white guy was like, he saw all the blacks, all the African people, all the melanated beings. Couldn't believe it. He was like, oh, they done took over. They feel as if they have an ownership of the mountain. It's not for everybody. But I'll say this, as I went up the mountain on 628, I came across Indian people, some African people, some Hispanic people, and I just thought about it, you know, the things that people have gone through. I thought about how the indigenous people were forced to walk from Georgia to Oklahoma and Texas. Think about how people had to walk from the South to the North to get their freedom during the days of slavery, the Underground Railroad. And I think about, you know, how the United States has damaged the economies of some of those Latin nations, Venezuela, Cuba. They've done these things, and people are forced to walk the earth in order to get to a place where they can find some sort of freedom, right? And it kind of humbled my heart going up that hill to the going up that mountain, to the plights of people, you know, who've had to endure great suffering and pain to get to the United States in order to make a better life. With that, I say peace. You spend a day without living. A day without learning is a day without living. Then I say peace.